I'd like to welcome everybody to this session on development models for the future. We're very pleased to have Vibhav Upadhyay with us from Japan. Vibhav spends a significant time there, lives there, but also significant times in India and around the world. And Satish Jha has also joined us. Satish is the chairman of EduFront, also chairman of Reach Scale, our network, and a well experienced and known investor and a developer of solutions around the world. We want to spend most of this hour hearing about the important work that Vibhav has done. I will just share a brief story from last night. We had the leader of the entire government sector for a major worldwide consulting firm with us. And as we were talking about the importance of creating new development models for the future, Vibhav got partway into his discussion, and the gentleman turned and said, "Oh, I'm very familiar with your work. You're the gentleman who created the example that China copied to create One Belt, One Road." And I thought that was quite an amazing statement to come from the global head of government for one of the largest and most prestigious consulting firms in the world, to have basically said, you know, Vibhav, you don't really need to go into that. We're very familiar with the fact that that major effort out of China came from the work you did earlier between Japan and India. So I'd like to ask a couple of questions of Vibhav myself, and then turn it over to Satish, because Satish and Vibhav have worked together for a longer period of time, and he will have a more in-depth understanding of the kinds of things that they have done together and that they have watched each other do. My initial comment really comes from a call we had this morning with a leader who has trained leaders all over the world and helped them to learn how to work together. And yet, despite that effort, the work together part is totally built on the old models that we've had from the industrial age. So Vibhav, please talk to our audience today here about why we need to change that and what you see as the approach for doing that.
Thank you, David, and thank you, everyone. Just a second.
You're coming through loud and clear and nicely centered.
So thank you, everyone, for joining this webinar. And thank you, David and Satish, for inviting me to speak on this. I will try to keep it very brief and very crisp. So the alternative development model, which we have designed and been pursuing for the last 24 years. Next year is the 25th anniversary of this new development operating system. This is what I call. It basically arrived from the need of a new development operating system, which world needs today. And because we believed and we debated and we believe that there's a vacuum, because the old development model, which was majorly or heavily dependent on exploitation, is what is the exploitation-based model. And it worked for 300 years very well, and it created whatever wealth we see in the world today, majorly through that model. And there were other models also, but majorly the old model of development, which had several variants like imperialism, capitalism, socialism, and Chinese version of capitalism, and European Union version of socialism and capitalism hybrid. So many models were there, but the problem we have to understand has arrived, because when it started, the number of aspirants were very limited to to the in the world, and they were majorly concentrated on the Western hemisphere of the world, which they define the roadmap and the rules, the institutions, and all the tools which required to go forward and create the wealth through exploitation, and that wealth was deployed back to create a roadmap and various infrastructures and other things for the humanity. And humanity really enjoyed these 300, 400 years of various ups and downs, and finally arrive at a point where God sent a messenger called Corona to tell us that we have to review and value our systems, and we have to really try to understand back what is missing in it. So the old model, as you know, was when it started, aspirants were very limited in number, and the resources were they were like infinite, not infinite actually, but like infinite. But today the problem is the roles have switched. Now the number of aspirants have become infinite, and the resources are going finite. So I always ask this question: can we create a Chicago or New York like, or Paris or London like city in India or in Africa using the same rules which we used in creating the Chicago and New York? And answer is obviously no. We have to engage new rules, and even it will be questioned, why do we have to create such an old thought process based rules of engagement, rules of living, lifestyle, value propositions have changed since then. But with the change value propositions and things which we do, nothing has changed in the governance model. It is almost same. I can give you an example of India. 1947, when we were declared independent. Yes, independent happened. Governance model was the same, what Britishers left with us, and which is still almost same. I will not say completely 100% same, but yes, leaders like Nehru, Vajpayee, Indira Gandhi, and many other leaders, they tried to bring the patchwork to that, but architecture was the same what Britishers left. So what happened in 1947 was a transfer of power from people who were governing became from white to brown. I'm sorry to use this terminology, but this has been used in India. It's not for categorizing any race or anything. So it just changed the hands of from one kind of people to another kind of people, and then the governing model was the same. And this is the reason why India is still struggling to give basic facilities to the masses of the country. And the population has grown 5 times. Since we have got independence. So not only the model is old, but also the model is not fit for such a large population. And also that model was made to govern India and rule India, not to empower Indians. So we need to change that. This is one example. And this example can be said in the terms of Africa also. So the new model is, I always propose this as not replacing the old model. It is an extension, or you can say it is a complementary model of the old model. So the old model can get rid of the burden of new additives to their already stressed resource struggle. And there are many efforts have been done in the world to bring down the stress on the model or stress on the system by bringing some change into the energy sources, change into the environment protection rules and all that. But that's only a patchwork, because until unless the core of the design of the operating system is being changed from exploitation to empowerment, this is not going to happen. So this is what we started 25 years. We brought Japan and India together. Leaders of India and Japan agreed to forge a special partnership called Global Partnership. And it was basically meant to take this new development model, thought process, and a framework to the world. That's the contribution of India and Japan to Asia and Africa, to anywhere it is required. And then we started as you can see, the partnership name is India-Japan Global Partnership. So we have to have our global partners to join hands into this. And we started extending our hands to European region. The first people who raised their hands to join from Nordic. Norway is our now a working partner and strategic partner. And we are also working on bringing Sweden and Denmark on it. And the reason why I'm in America now is to initiate a process through which we can bring American institutions, people, and lastly, finally, the American government, and at last, So and this is a long process. It's not just on theory. If we understand it's good, it will happen. It will take a lot of time. It will need a strategy how people can first recognize it, then accept it, and then download it. I'm using the word download because I'm a computer scientist by education, and done my master's and PhD into it. So I see the governance model as very similar to the operating system of the computer. And thank you very much, David, for asking this question.
So let's stay with that set of ideas for a minute. Because in a sense, we're sitting in a country that has been in the process of dismantling the progress that it made previously in trying to shift models. And, the past administration has basically doubled down on sticking with the old models to an extent that's almost impossible to believe that they actually did that in the last 4 years. I found myself wondering as I sat here in the US watching that, what would it take to bring other major countries into the conversation, in essence, bypassing the US for a period of time, which I didn't see happening until I looked at what you were doing with Norway, what you were doing with the African countries, what you've done with Japan. And, part of my positive response to this has been that if this ever happens again in the US, the rest of the world is going to have to move forward without us. And those of us who want to help are going to have to go work with people outside. So were you envisioning that as an outcome when you started the conversations with Norway and so on? Or was that really a separate activity that just turned it out to be fortuitous?
Thank you very much. So Norway happened because I had a common friend with the leaders there, and they were very carefully watching what we were doing. And we believe that Norway is a living lab of what we are trying to do. It's a living lab. Norway has already achieved some part of what we are trying to do. But being a small population there, it was easier to achieve there. But with a population like India, in population like region of Africa, and I will not say China, because China, though, has already adopted their own model of development, but I was very surprised to see an interview of the president in recent newspaper articles. Interview that he said that China needs to adopt an alternative development model, which is not referring to us, but they are saying that we need to find out another model of development, because what we are adopting now is not going too far. It's not going to go. So so it is natural to accept this fact that the continuous exploitation of the limited resources will lead us to a deadlock somewhere. Any intelligent man with a little bit of IQ or EQ will understand this, that if we have only $100 and we keep on spending $50 on every transaction, it's only a certain way, even if you leverage it for some time, can go 4 times, 5 times, 6 times only. And after that, you're showing the bill of $100 will not work, because people will start understanding that there's only $100 and too much of leverage on it. So we are currently highly leveraged on the resources we already have, and I will give an example that in India, based upon these models, we already worked on it. So it's a joint effort of me and leaders in India, I will name Abe Shinzo, the former prime minister. He just resigned a month back, but he was longest serving prime minister, and he served 2 times as a prime minister. Who, God knows who will be the 3rd time as well, but he was a charismatic leader with whom I had an honor to work with, and he's my old friend for 20 years, 25 years. And we basically worked together along with other Japanese leaders on both sides of the divide of the politics there, and the business leaders also there, and with Indians also on the side, their counterparts. As far as we can say, top level in India to top leadership in the business also. We were able to not only catalyze the entire process of establishing an initiative called Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, which was nothing but a design to reestablish India's industrial culture, which was broken, backbone of which was broken the time of British period of 250 years in India. And India basically was made to supply the raw material only, and no industrial activity was permitted to be done in India. So when India got independent, India tried its best, but with the governing system, which still was the same, it was very difficult to make India an industrial nation, or maybe adopt an industry to become its as a main industry. Doesn't matter which industry. It could be manufacturing, it could be agriculture, it could be healthcare, it could be IT. But IT is not an industry; it's an enabler. So in true sense, India needed a new design of industrial culture, and Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor has provided that. And Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor is not alone. It's a template which we brought in. It's under execution right now, as many of you must be knowing about it. It's a $100 billion initiative supported by Japan, and also India participated financially into this. We have 3 more corridors very similar to that in India, going from Delhi to Calcutta, which is where the industry is supposed to be agriculture, knowledge, and another corridor is from Chennai to Bombay, which will be a mixed use of the industry, soft industry, some manufacturing, some biotech and technology, and the 4th corridor is from Chennai to Calcutta, which will be a coastal corridor, having almost like 15 ports and a logistic infrastructure. And this coast will be basically facing a first call of port, a port of call from ASEAN and Japan, and in fact even in China if we consider. So the infrastructure to receive and engage ASEAN and Japan, this infrastructure was necessary and has been made now. So in India this happened, and Norway was aware of all this work, and they have support to us. And in fact, it was an honor when we were introduced to their prestigious foundation called Nobel Foundation. They're our strategic partner now in doing the researches and taking the researches of research work of ADM to the world. So that's what we are doing right now. And Norway is a neutral country. We also saw that as a manifestation platform for our work. So like when France and Germany came together in EU to create a framework and a group in EU called EU Now, they chose Davos in Switzerland as a neutral place where they created a manifestation platform called WEF, the World Economic Forum. We have chosen Norway to be our neutral place and the manifestation platform where the people who believe in change, those who believe in alternative to current system of development, people who have already worked very hard on doing this, will gather in 2022 as our next summit. The last summit was in 17, and the first one was in 2011, which me and Satish did it very closely. Satish was in charge of as Secretary General there. So I look forward, David, to your next question. Yeah. If you think this has been answered.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So I'm going to hand it off to Satish Jha, Chairman of Reach Scale, to pick up the questions because he has an intimate knowledge of your history together in India and Japan and working with that. Satish, do you want to take over for the next 25 minutes?
Okay. I would start, Vibhavji, by saying that my generation grew up with a variety of alternative models. I remember first came intermediate technology, then came alternate development, small is beautiful, wantless society, and so on and so forth. In other words, the quest to find a solution to the problems that you just posed, the resources are finite, wants can be unlimited, infinite, and how do you match that for the 80% population which hasn't experienced the development that the affluent world has? You began a journey that I have watched a part of it. The highlights or the points the watermarks in some ways that I can think of is what you had India-Japan conference in 2011, the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, the way you structured Banaras and Kyoto city relationship, and the way you brought Japan and India together to think of larger issues, not just plain simple bilateral ones, but get engaged with a larger question of mutual development, so to say. Now, given that backdrop, when you look at the future, how do you differentiate yourself from these perspectives that evolved from intermediate to alternate to wantlessness and so on and so forth? And the model that you've created, how will it in 20 years time frame come together for people to begin to experience its fruits?
Thank you very much, Satish. Thank you very much for quite a good and correct understanding of the subject. So I will tell you this, when you talk about nation building or any operating system which needs to change, the cycle of that is at least 50 years, if not 100 years, But it has to start somewhere. So I always say it has started through us. I don't know where it would end up and who will end up leading it in the world in future, But we can proudly say that we have started. 25 years have gone, and I can only say that we were able to make a small, humble change into, well, even in India, we are struggling to make people understand that what we have done in India is a new development model. Though the leaders at the top understand that, the public has to also understand. So we are in a phase now to basically, so 25 years already, 24 years, so I will round off to say 25 years of efforts have gone into making this model adopted by some. My last attempt with Africa was amazing. I received an overwhelming response thanks to leadership in Norway and Japan that they all set it up for us. And the leaders in Africa, 15 leaders I met, and all of them agreed to this thought process and this mechanism and this architecture. And now we are working with them to see that if we can create a small consortium of ADM adopting nations, okay. And it's up to the nations to adhere to what part of it, It is not, it is an open source. It's like Linux, We are not going to tell them what to do and what brand to buy and which company will execute your things, whether it is the Indian company, Japanese company. But what I also have heard that we need to guide them also, because if we leave if we leave an operating system with a child, you don't have to worry about, he will figure out. They will leave a operating system with a 90 years old. I think we need to give a little bit of assistance, and especially a 90-year-old has been exploited all over, again and again, ruthlessly, So for guiding force, this is what I'm feeling that, we have to put countries, nations, and people who think about this together to come together. And that's what is the platform called Alternative Development Organization we created in Norway, along with Norwegian leadership, and now supported by industry and non-for-profits like Nobel Foundation there. And we're working with our foundation in India, in Japan, called India-Japan Foundation, IJF, and ADO are working together. And we are in the process of setting up our foundation in Washington, DC, or you can say America, because it doesn't matter where it is located. And Satish, by your question, how this is going to do in 20 years. So my answer is, in 25 years already have gone in, designing, driving, creating one or two examples, though 14 examples are there. And then now the time has come, we have to go to the masses for outreaches, leaders for outreach. So another 20 years, I can tell you that will go in making people realize the good this model can do to the society, and how this can help in reducing the energy requirements and environment impact, and the sustainability can grow, and how human values can be protected with this.
My question also along the same line says, when India became free, we had 360 million people. Today, we have 1.4 billion people, something along those lines. But today, we have more than 600 million people who can't really read and write. They can figure out what is Kaka, AB, 1, 2, 3, 4, but beyond that, they can't imagine. But the nation's wealth resides in the people that live in that nation. For instance, a small state of 600,000 people called Vermont has more GDP than any of the non-top 4 states of India, for instance, because every person contributes at a very high level of productivity and skills. So why is it that 70 years, which could have created a whole new generation looking back, why did the government of India not do that? That's not a question for you, but why can't we do something in the next 20 years, invest in people and let them become who they want to become, who they can become, and that will bring a new kind of dynamism to the whole growth model. And because there are so many of them, they'll all contribute. We don't know what will be the path. If you're not driving it yourself, if the state is not driving, it'll probably find a new meaning because people are involved in that. Does it make sense to you that we should invest in people rather than infrastructure first?
Yes, I think investing in infrastructure is like only burdening ourselves with the current wrong into the operating system. To understand this model, it's very important that we are true to ourselves. We are truthful and transparent. Why? Because we have to identify what are the real problems today. The problems we are seeing in the world are just the symptoms. They're not the disease itself. So, but there is the plethora of diseases now going on in the world, whether it's a defect, a disease in our architecture of democracy. The things you are seeing, what is happening in India or America, it means, I don't know who's laughing from where, is this democracy? Yes, it is some sort of democracy, but this is not what desirable, This is not what the representation-based democracies have now abused the system more than what was required, So I think alternative to democratic model is also to be discussed and decided. We don't have a ready-made solution for that, but a debate has to start on that what are the new ways of, taking the voice of people, participation of people into the decision-making. And I think technology can do a great assistance in doing that, because before it was not possible to connect people. So that is why the representation was the only way that people were connected once through dialogue, and then they say, okay, he's the guy, But it basically is an old model. It's an old model of at least 200 years old, or maybe 100 years old, you can say. But we need to think of ways, And, a lot of governments are reluctant of using technology to do the voting, But I think the time has come when people have a right to know where their vote has gone and what good it has done or what bad it has done to them, so they can make their decisions based upon the progress in work, and progress in governance, progress in development, or progress into anything done towards humanity, rather than just a blind supporter of and that's the only way I think. And also, we cannot blame current leaders or politicians for what they are doing. They are nothing but our reflection. This is what we deserve. This is what we created over the period of time. So our creation cannot be subject to criticism only. Okay, we can criticize them, but they are not the only responsible thing. So I think the Satish, what you ask is that there's a need of debates, and that is why we created the manifestation platform also. This is not just another summit we want to do. Okay, we want to invite now the corona has also taught us how to remain connected through the power of internet. So not necessarily that all the people which are invited join us physically, but we will try to make sure that people who think alike, people who are seeking solutions or already produced solutions, there are so much of work gone into creating alternative to the old models, but it's not structured, it's not scalable, and it's very difficult to adopt by all. Okay, and also we have to be very careful that we should not look like giving people tools of thought by a one person. We have to give people choices to choose what they want to do, but for that it is important that we have alternatives ready with choices, and people can adopt that in coming time.
The beautiful thing
Satish,
you said, to my mind, yes.
Satish, let me just pose a question from Julie McBride, because I'd like to get a woman involved there, and then you can pick it up after. Julie's asking about the model and its impact on land, business ownership, local communities owning part of the model. Could you just quickly comment on that,
Yes.
Vibhav, before Satish picks up?
Okay, so very, very beautiful question, actually. I will give you one example. It will definitely impact on land ownership and business ownerships in coming time. So, the biggest step we have to take to replace greed by need, because right now our economic models are driven mostly by greed, not by need. I'm not saying everybody is doing that, but largely at the decision-making point, it is basically, in words it says that we are working for people. Ultimately, it basically goes for, otherwise. So I will give you an example how it has ended a large impact in India. So India was going through a land grabbing mechanism from 1996 to 2005, 2004 or 2005, I can say. And what was happening? So some very interesting people brought an idea of SEZ from China, special economic zones. Okay, and they said, oh, India should have them also. I opposed it because China needs it, because China is a communist country which needs islands of freedom, and SEZs were nothing but islands of democracy in China, to do business like Americans, like European, like Indians. But rest of the China was not open to that kind of business. So SEZs were the good model there, but India it was not. But the intention in India was something else. People were grabbing land like 5,000 acres, 10,000 acres, in the name of creating SEZs, and that was leading exploitation of farmers and people who were the landowners and others. So, one master stroke on Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, where we compared the energy, environment, and sustainability balance sheet we created for SEZs, if they try to achieve the goal of development, certain development goals. And then the similar goals, how through the ADM and the ADM design, belts can be, used. And, and the result was fantastic. Our balance sheets were far better than, and were leading to the empowerment of people, jobs, happiness, and connected societies and all that. So what happened in 2006? We were able to announce, with the help of Japan, the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor. And in 2000, by the time the organization was made in 2008, and by the time organization was made and the vision was announced in big way in 2010, 99% of India's SEZs gone bankrupt. And they because they were not making sense. They were not making sense. No viability, because they were distributed all over India without connectivity, without any definition of energy efficiency or energy from where the energy will come. No plans, and they all were planning to pollute the world in whatever fashion they wanted to. There was no regulation and no control on them. And land was grabbed for sure. So this is how a very big plethora of land was freed and opened in India without bringing a law. Just by creating a parallel line, we basically take care of the older line.
Thank you. Back to you, Satish.
Okay. One beautiful question you, in fact, implicitly said was, if the operating system was given to children, you won't have much to worry about because they'll find something. So same way, if your model effectively helps children of today educate and learn from this, and they can take it forward, you won't have much to worry about that. And so why not invest in children? $100 billion fund for educating children of the world. There are, between Africa and India, we have 2.8 billion people, about 600 billion children. And if you create a $100 billion fund for education across these two major, you can say, the blocks of humanity, I think the world you'll see will be very satisfying for you, and it will find its own meaning to the alternate development you're talking about. Is that something you're thinking about?
Satish, thank you very much. And this is exactly what we're thinking about. And, why don't you draft a paper? We can sign it tomorrow, or maybe
That's
today, why not? Those who are in this webinar, and why not the people who are in the webinar also come and join and witness this decision. $100 billion on education, healthcare. We have expended a little bit more. The first $100 billion we succeeded to catalyze was the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, which was G2G, and government of Japan and government of India, they worked, but we played a major role in catalyzing it, and it happened today. There's a first $100 billion initiative. The second one, I may not be able to name it, but Satish know it well. Here in public, I will not be able to name it, but we created a $100 billion. We catalyzed to create a $100 billion another fund in the world. There's only one, so everybody knows the name now. So now this will be the third attempt. This time, the foundation will be the principal. We will not catalyze. We will do it ourselves. We'll take a lead. And foundation is for the people, by the people. So all the people who are a part of foundation will definitely be a driving force into it. And it will lead to systems. So nation building is always defined in the terms of ideology, system, initiative, projects, and product in this order. If you see a pyramid, ideology is on the top, then systems next, and systems define the initiatives and projects and products. So what I believe, we have to create a lot of systems, new systems for education, for healthcare, for and agriculture as well. So these three fields, which very few people in the world want to touch it. Very few people in the world want to touch it because this will need a lot of work. This will need a lot of work and a lot of solution providing into this. So we hereby say that we have taken the challenge to create $100 billion fund, and the structure of the fund will not be the old model style fund. The money is very much there all over the world, whether it's the sovereign wealth funds or the large financial institutions. The only problem is that the money goes where the relevance is, and we are working towards creating the relevance, and I think we will definitely succeed in doing it. I don't have a time frame for doing it, but as Satish knows that I don't sleep till I do what I say.
What I see is the undercurrent of sustainability throughout what you're doing, right? So how do you make sustainability not just something which is fashionable, something you wear on your sleeves, but actually internalize it? Do you think, just like, for instance, we created a Nobel Prize for economics, which led to economics becoming a discipline that people began paying more attention to, creating Nobel Prize in sustainability can lead to something where people begin to see it as a place to go to, something they can internalize themselves, something which becomes integral part of everything they do. Is that something you're thinking about?
So, Satish, the biggest challenge we faced then when we started 10 years back, popularizing the idea of ADM, and I found the biggest challenge was to talk to people who are the champions of the old model, okay, and suggesting them something which was basically looks like, which is not, but it looks like a threat to their model. Then I started realizing that these are all intelligent people. They are not dumps who are just controlling the system or champions of the system. So my approach little changed, and I asked them, then, will you like an assistance and a helping hand, in reducing the stress and burden on your own current system, where the undesirables, are joining the race in using your resources, And the answer was very good. And similarly, when I was in Norway, I felt that, Nobel institution will be old thought process, and they will only think the way old think. And I was proven wrong, They jumped into the idea of creating a Nobel Prize for sustainable development, Okay. And we also at the foundation is planning to create a award for, award for sustainable, I will not say sustainable development, but I will say a development leading to human, sustainability, So, so these two efforts will definitely go hand in hand. We will work with the Nobel Foundation to first announce the sustainable, I don't know how much far it will go. It's only been proposed, and we have been working, and we are doing researches together to see that how a alternative development model can work. But at the same time, we also working internally to work with some partner in Norway, US, and some European countries to create a pool of resources, so we can basically award those people, young people especially, those who attempt to create something which will last long and impact long for human development, whether it's in terms of technology or it is in terms of a method or a lifestyle or something which can be adopted easily by humans. Because the reason Apple was so popular and other phones felt a competition out of it, because Apple was so easy to use, it was user friendly. So the user friendliness of the new model has to be worked upon, which we are working right now, and make them feel it is theirs, it doesn't belong to someone. And I will say, the development model should belong to the humanity, not to one person. One person may have come up with the idea and popular made it, whatever it is, but it doesn't belong to. It's like water and air, and it's like freedom. It should belong to people. And we are also working on a mechanism how people can become the, trustees and custodians of this model. We're working on that.
You touched upon water and air. I look at energy has been with us for the last 30, 40, 50 years, particularly after the OPEC formation. Energy became a major issue at one point in time. Today, water is a bigger issue from my point of view. The way I look at it, India is a water-stressed nation as of now. And we are trying to figure out how to handle water. 80% population in India doesn't get drinking water, which is of any baseline quality for human consumption, but they get immunity and they survive with that. What are the challenges that you think water is going to pose in the coming 25 to 50 years of human development?
Thank you, Satish. This is a wonderful question. Satish, my answer to that question is, what do you think, my statement is, what do you think is the main problem between China and India and Pakistan today? It is water. The areas we are fighting for or disputing is basically water rich and the source of the water to our countries. Today, China and India are fighting almost in a verge of fighting with each other for a land which is no man's land. Nobody lives there. Are there minerals there? Maybe. What is there for definite? Water. What is Tibet is known for? The water resources. And water resources are in the Dakshai chain. Water resources at the Arunachal. Water resources and other places. And India today, it's very dangerous that what development models do to people. So what people of India have learned from the old model is a wrong definition of modernization or development. Okay, I'm not saying the old model's definition of development was wrong, but they have learned wrong way. Okay, so unnecessary, without calculating for their resources, without calculating for the stress they are causing to others, the uses of water in India, uses of energy in India has gone and grown into a wrong way. Though it is still, in comparison to America and Europe, a very small GDP per capita, small GDP, and per capita uses of energy and water and environment also is still very small. But the pattern we have adopted, the ways how energy will be consumed, and it is all through the operating system. Operating system decides what will be the future of the energy. It decides what is the future of water, what will be the future of the food grains, and even the fashion and the clothing and other things, that people who adopt. So that's where we need to bring a change there. A person living in village in India knows America or Europe through its basic cultures, food culture and other things. They may not know the history of America or Europe, but they definitely know what is McDonald's. They definitely know what is Pepsi and what is other things. So they are the products which are the last mile ambassadors of the model which was created on last time. And I'm not saying this is something wrong which was done. It was the best available at that time, but it was done and people enjoyed it. But today, what we are facing is a crisis of resources, whether it's water, energy, and agriculture. The method of agriculture in India is old. We produce a lot of grains and vegetables. 50% of what goes to rats and ruins. So can you believe in a country of 1.3 billion people waste half of their production just because we don't have proper infrastructure? And infrastructure is we don't have because today we can't dream of having an infrastructure which will consume further energy, further environment, further things. So we have to come up with a solution which is not going to challenge the energy and environment the way it is being challenged in the old model.
Coming to air, for instance, when I look at the air quality, also important for sustaining humanity. I have the images of Los Angeles from 70s, which I saw as pictures. I've seen the pictures of Beijing 10 years back. Now I see the pictures of Delhi this week. Somebody said, look at this, the sun at noon the darkness at noon was basically the photograph caption as such. So Are you thinking about creating some coalition where we can get to address some of these major issues like water and air?
So government of India is led by very capable people right now. Okay, they have been understood and misunderstood both. What Prime Minister Modi has done is fantastic by shutting down the old models, institutions, and he's trying to establish new model and new ways of development. He's actually the leader of the world on ADM, I will say, without defining it as an ADM, but all the processes have been adopted. So today, what they are facing as a challenge is how to change the behavior, like a small behavior around Delhi of burning crops, burning the waste out of the crops. Satish, can you just give me the English term of what
stubbles?
Stubbles they are burning,
Yeah.
because we don't have solution for them. We don't have solutions that how these stubbles can be converted in energy or even manure or anything else, or maybe a substance which can be used for daily use or something. There are technologies available across the world. I have seen technologies in America. I've seen technologies in Sweden, Norway, and in Japan, where stubbles can be converted into clothes, and some kind of a medical value or this and that. But still, in India, they burn it in the month of October. Every year, the same story is being repeated. In November, you will see a dark sky because the stubbles have been burned around Delhi. And Delhi is a place where basically attracts a lot of, scientifically, it creates a vacuum every day because of the vehicles and many others. So the inflow of carbon particles to Delhi is very, very fast. And government is trying its best. They are able to give some solutions, some incentives even. If you don't burn and give this will be given to you. They even try to enforce it by using police and all that, but it's still the old habits don't die, So we're still struggling, and in coming time, I see a collaboration because the technological collaboration is very much important. I remember Beijing 15 years back deployed air purifiers, huge air purifiers on the top of buildings. There were 10,000 of them were deployed on the buildings of the. But that was like putting an ointment on a blister. That was not the solution. So they gave a short-term and medium-term solution to the problem, and but you don't see that in Japan. Why? Because Japan society has understood the equilibrium and the way development works, and they have learned the control, self-control. Even some areas of Japan, you will find no car day, where you can only no cars can be used in those areas one day of the week or something. But that's one example, and I'm saying that India has to act very fast on these things, because considering the big population, and big population can always create big problems, if we don't come up with a sizable and sustainable solutions for them.
Satish, could we take a couple of questions from the audience? Okay. Vinod from Mumbai mentions that they're doing work on river rejuvenation through Jilbiradari, and that JICA is funding that work, Vibhav. And he's curious about ability to communicate with JICA on how they could improve the impact of their funding on these projects.
Just a line more. The projects I'm speaking of are between JICA and the Government of India. And as Jal Biradari, we have been independently, along with the government also, doing river rejuvenation at the basin level, which involves behavior change as a very large component of the change. Technology is there, but behavior change is the major component.
I agree.
Just one more line. JICA is funding some projects which deal with the bank rejuvenation and the bank beautification. I feel that there is not enough of a channel between people like us who would like to speak of the holistic model and the levels at which these decisions are taken. We would really like to use your portal of India Center. I have just applied as a volunteer also over there. Because anyone on earth who says today that we are looking forward to a vision for a better tomorrow, a better world where everyone is open to give their inputs, we are directly together in heart much before we met also. So we would like to specifically convey across some of the non-holistic things happening. I agree with you that such things will happen because it's a meeting of old and new. And communication is what is going to sort out these issues at this particular nexus where we are going through. Thank you.
Yes, yes. So I will definitely give you a platform. You know, and we will see that how we keep on doing roundtables with Japanese decision makers and in the ages of India-Japan global partnership. Such a roundtable, now we have changed the format to physical meeting to physical and Zoom meeting. You're more than welcome to join that. You can address the JICA directors and not only that, you know, we are specialized in short-circuiting a lot of things. The protocols of governments, I am a single cause, my foundation single cause of short-circuiting government protocols in Japan and India both, you know. And, you know, it happened when I took Chief Minister of, he's my old friend, Mr. Narendra Modi. I took Chief Minister of Gujarat, who was haunted by some protocols in America for not giving him visa and all that. So I took him to Japan and took him to Prime Minister directly. And that short-circuited a lot of things, you know. It was a good short-circuit, you know. The good one, which created, which basically opened up a path for him to become the Prime Minister. And also, that also gave Japan a leader they can believe into. And it enhanced the India-Japan relationship. So I welcome you, Vinodji. Please write to us through Satish or David, or maybe write directly to us. It is important. Yeah. Please understand, we have very limited resources. Only a limited number of people work with us. So it may take some time, but we'll definitely try to create a platform in which you can put your thought process and you can work with us on mission on water as well.
Just a very brief rejoinder, David.
Vinod, I want to get a couple more questions in, so let's plan a separate conversation if that's okay. Okay. Sonali Thapar from New Delhi has asked, India is leaning towards securing its commitment to clean energy, and it's gaining traction as a development leader. What are the plans of the alternate development model to share innovations from India to other Indo-Pacific and other countries generally? Is that part of the plan, Vibhav?
Can you tell me the name of the person?
Technologies developed in India that can be shared more aggressively with other countries, particularly in South Asia.
David, I understood the question. Who's the person asking this?
Sonali Thapar. I believe she's an investor and an impact investor.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Sonali, for asking such a nice question. You know, our leaders say India has a wish, will become Vishwa Guru one day, and the teacher of or maybe the mentor of the world. And I always say, you know, God willing, or maybe can say Inshallah, you know, and but we are far away from that. Okay, for Guru to teach the world, we have to become the practice first. And you are right in saying that on a clean energy, India has adopted the right format, or you can say the architecture to go clean energy. And India can become the guru on the clean energy for the rest of the world. In fact, Africa is learning a lot from India right now. Our Prime Minister's great vision on creating bringing the solar countries all together, and creating an organization which is in a counterpart to OPEC, because OPEC only looks into energy through gas and oil. But, you know, the question was, which I also contributed a little in creating that organization. or on a vision part, first, that there has to be an organization which has to be responsible for deciding the norms and architecture and thought process on what renewable energy, starting with solar, will play a role in development of the humanity. So initiatives like that can become a platform, or you can say they can create a roadmap taking India's innovations, India's way of doing things on clean energy, can be taken to regions which need it, and I'm pretty sure, and that is what, if you read carefully, India-Japan global partnership defines also that India and Japan joining hands along with its global partners like America and Norway and many others who will join in coming time to take it to the rest of the world. A problem statement is, the problem is very big and the platform is very big. And I'm sure what you just said, I wish that that becomes true. And we are working towards that. And on a renewable energy also, and India and Japan also working very closely on hydrogen and other renewable energy initiatives. And because solar has a very limited life, another 25 years and solar is gone, it will be past, So, and so will be the electric cars, not more than 25 years. So, so India has to become a living lab of the renewable energy experiments and system adoption. I totally agree with you, and I'll be more than happy if we can align our vision and work together on this as well. Thank you.
So if you'll be patient, 2 more quick questions and then we'll wrap up. From Rupa Chakravarti. Having attended the Smart Cities Symposium in Pragati, Maidan, I was impressed by the developmental goals and ethos of the country. I'm really asking, how do we make the actual implementation on the ground work favorably for the poor and the people who are lacking basic necessities? So I think this is one of your favorite topics, Vibhav.
Yes. The Smart City program was basically brought by Narendra Modi's party's manifesto. Our foundation had a role to play in that. And in fact, if you know about a Kyoto Banaras initiative, that was our first practical example of how culturally rich two cities from India and Japan can learn from each other. And also, idea was to learn the process which Kyoto adopted in 40 years to make it heritage and smart city. So how Banaras can become a beautiful city while keeping its heritage intact. That was basically the entire thing. So in urban development, because an ideology was established, so a system called urban establishment is called city in our words. Some people try to say that a better city is a smart city, or the definition is quite confusing. But in our head, definition is very, very clear, and the whole idea of implementing those were to basically impact the people who live there, or people who opt to live in cities in coming time. So they have all the necessary, basics like water, education, health, pure air, and transportation, and equal opportunity of work. So these are the definition of the and some of so converting an old city into a smart city is a tougher job than creating a green a new city which can provide all this. The toughest part in the new city will be how to bring a culture, because city is like a child. It has to evolve, it has to be grown, and it has to have its own culture and thought process and people who live there, So making city is not about just creating infrastructure and providing money and creating infrastructure. So city building is an exercise which is an outcome of a teamwork and thinking. Does this answer my question? Does this answer your questions, Sonali?
That's very helpful, Vibhav. And we will engage any of you who want to reach out to Vibhav. Please use my email, david_wilcox@comcast.net, comcast.net, and send LinkedIn invites to myself and to Vibhav. We'll coordinate the conversations around this event with him, which is more efficient in terms of getting answers to everybody who participated. I think at this point, I do have a couple of questions that we will take offline, but I think I'd like to thank everybody for participating. Lots of activity in the chat from all of you, which we really appreciate. It was great to field a number of questions from women. We sometimes get hammered when Satish and I do these interviews. It's he and I and the speaker, and people think of it as a panel and think we've created a mantle. So we apologize for that, but we do also interview women, and we will try to do more of that going into the future. So thank you for attending the ScaleThinkers series, and we'll be back to you in the next couple of weeks.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vibhav. Really appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thanks, Satish, for your great questions.
Thank you very much. Be safe.